Thank you for tuning in to Professor Fitchman, where I answer questions. You know, as a professor, you get a lot of questions, and so I try to answer them. And the gist of it is, you should definitely question my answers. So here we go. My question was asked, "Who are we?" And I said, and I asked, "Well, are you talking about all the voices that I have in my head?" And they said, "No, that's what we're talking about." And I said, "Oh, you're talking about a larger picture, big question of who are we?" Well, it depends. I mean, we're human beings, supposedly. We come in different colors, we come in different shapes and sizes. Different sounds come out of our mouth. You know what I mean? And some of those that even understand these sounds that I'm doing, we don't necessarily understand each other. I know there's religions and philosophies and social constructs, and they talk about all of us working together. That's right, people helping each other, hugging the feelings of being cared for, giving us hope. That's out there. Yet daily in the news, people breaking into homes, killings, robbings, rapings, people taking advantage, people who throw shit all over the walls in some public bathroom. I mean, what's going on there? People who, intentionally break things that everybody needs. I mean, is that really who we are? Do we need mommies and daddies, to police us? Because otherwise, you run up and you take the toys away from your brothers and your sisters, and you grab the biggest piece of cake. You know what I'm saying? You go and grab the biggest piece of cake, and you don't care about other people. And sharing is a good idea, unless you say no, I'm starving. So who are we? I mean, this is we're getting deep now. Are we settling? Are we setting up systems that create endless wars, conniving? The strongest get what they want because that's how the strongest feel that it works. And nature is the strongest actually when you pay attention to see what has happened. I mean, it's amazing that humans have survived, adapted to what nature has thrown at us, and is going to be thrown at us pretty soon. You could think, I think it's the people who think the fastest, or they develop ways of, keeping the food coming in. You know what I mean? Not the supermarkets. I'm talking about other ways of bringing in the food. And those who want power, right? They have hierarchical class systems where, it creates basically and keeps food and housing and health care and all that, away from the people who really need it, and education, and it creates a lower class basically. That's nothing new, okay? Professor Fitchman here. I'm just reporting on back history. The money, the status, all the things defined as the prizes the upper class gets to have, and the rest of us are blamed for our misery basically, where it's like our fault. When we look at this, the corruption and the lack of caring for others, the disrespect for everything, and I'm being asked, who are we? I'm reminded, that famous philosopher Tonto, the Indian guide with the Lone Ranger. The Lone Ranger was, there and saw a group of Indians gathering, and they were getting ready to attack. And the Lone Ranger said to Tonto, the Indian, "We are in big trouble." And Tonto turns to the Lone Ranger, "What do you mean, we, Kimosabi?" And today, ladies and gentlemen, that is from my response from Professor Richmond, Fitchman it is, Fitchman, and basically, yep, I'll give you the credits. You can use them towards some degree. Who knows? Check in, keep asking those questions, and hopefully you get some answers.